Hey folks, Brad here. 6 weeks to the day after I completely ruptured my Achilles tendon. First off, my condolences. I suspect those of you who have found this video have either just done the same yourself or you have somebody that you care about and you collectively are trying to figure out the best protocol to move forward. Needless to say, I can empathize. It was certainly one of the toughest health and wellness decisions that I've had to make in a very long time. Part of the reason behind that is, as far as the science goes, it's basically 6 one way, half dozen the other as to whether or not you decide surgical or non-surgical. There was a study out of Canada about 5 years ago that basically showed similar recoveries between the two. Surgical obviously having a slightly higher risk of complications. Obviously you're going in and creating more trauma, you're making the decision, so higher risk for infection and other complications that can certainly go along with surgery. On the flip side, with non-surgical, there's a slightly higher risk of re-rupturing, and the initial stages tend to go a little bit slower. Obviously for me, and I think probably for most, the idea of being able to avoid surgery is certainly something that's extremely appealing. Yet for the type of person that I am, doing nothing just really didn't seem like an option. It just doesn't, it's just not in my personality. I wanted to do everything that I possibly could to accelerate, promote, and hopefully enhance the healing. So something that was incredibly intriguing to me was the promise of using stem cells to promote the healing and help out with the whole situation. That was something that, quite frankly, I couldn't find anything online. There are some great non-surgical videos. Both Brady Brown out of Canada, who's a professional football player, and then actually Evan Brown here in the States have done a real nice series of the whole non-surgical protocol, but I couldn't find anything that was taking it to that next step and enhancing it with stem cells or other practices to help promote healing further. Fortunately, I have a very good friend of mine who used to play professional rugby, who's had 2 very successful stem cell procedures over the course of the last year. So he certainly served as a sounding board. His stem cell procedures had to deal with tendons and ligaments around the knee area, to which he had great success. So I went and saw his doctor, and he gave me ultimately the confidence to move forward. You can see, I don't know how clear it is for you guys, but those are my stem cells. With this procedure, it's an adipose procedure, so they're actually going in and doing a mini liposuction, if you will, to extract fat cells, or extract fat, and they get the stem cells from that. They then mix it with your blood, and then ultimately are injecting it back into the area that they're looking to heal. One of the benefits of going this route is obviously the good majority of them went into my Achilles, but I had also slightly tweaked my MCL during ski season this year, so I also had some injected into my MCL, and then about 3 weeks prior to my Achilles, I went down pretty hard on my mountain bike and tweaked my shoulder, so we also injected some into to the shoulder to promote the healing there as well. One of the other huge benefits that I've found with this whole procedure is every time I'm going to my doctor, I'm getting imagery. We're not strictly relying on a protocol, which, with orthopedists is when they're not actually going in and looking at the body part with imagery each time is simply a law of averages more often than not. They tell you that for this injury that it's anywhere from a good part of 6 months to a year to be fully recovered. I'm hoping for 4 to 6 months because I want to be back on the mountain skiing this winter, ideally. And I think one of the things that will hopefully enable me to accelerate that is the fact that each time I'm going to the doctor, he's able to see what the tissue quality is, and then hopefully advance me to that next level of active rehab, etc. And so far so good. This particular imagery, I don't know if you can see it, But that is actually where the complete tear was, and that's actually the needle going in during the procedure to inject the stem cells. Now, all of a week later, that blackish area is where the complete rupture was, and you can already, you're not going to pick up the quality, but you could actually already start to see where the tissue is filling in, which gave me great promise. It wasn't a lot, but it was what the doctor expected at that point in time. Now 2 weeks into the progress, again, this is where the complete rupture was, and now you can really see some tendon fibers start to show up. One of the things that helped me decide to go this non-surgical route and use stem cells was a conversation that I had with one orthopedist buddy and then also a competitive skier who went the non-surgical route. You think about it, with the surgical route, you're really, it's not like you're stitching two finite ends together. It's as if you're trying to stitch the ends of two paintbrushes together. So you're overlapping them and you're making sure they're there. But I think as long as it's close and you're getting good plantar flexion in your foot, there's still a very high likelihood that the non-surgical approach could work well for you. So this is after 2 weeks. That to me was extremely promising. You can again see the fibers go in there. He still asked that I keep it non-weight bearing after that, again, just because he wanted to see better quality in the tissue. And then 3 weeks following the procedure, which was 3.5 weeks after the actual injury, there's the tendon, and we had a tendon. So the connectivity looked really good. At this point, he was very comfortable with me putting full weight bearing on, so I've been walking in the cam boot ever since. That's something that's come rather naturally to me. It's as if you're walking in a ski boot. Unfortunately, you're only wearing one ski boot, and there's not the promise of carving turns at the end of your day by any means. It's as if you're just walking through the parking lot on your way to the lodge. But still nice to lose the crutches and be able to put some weight on it relatively early and start to get some strength back. A week after this, so week 4, Dr. green-lighted me to start riding a bike. So I've been riding a bike for the past 2 weeks now, which has been great just to get to the gym, which is relatively close, about a mile and a half, but a little bit further than he'd like me, perhaps walking straight in the boot, and just to get out and start to get some cardio and some fresh air, quite frankly, after being stuck inside for a good few weeks of the summer. The rest part for me is always the most challenging. I'm looking very forward to getting to the active part of the rehab, at which point that my diligent work can pay off. Obviously you want to be careful not to overdo it and listen to your body and follow what the doctors say, but there seems to be some really good evidence that again, kind of moving away from what they call the RICE protocol, rest, ice, compression, and elevation. That is something that's great for the first couple of weeks, but moving to what they're calling the MEAT protocol, which is movement, exercise, analgesic, as opposed to anti-inflammatories, and treatment, that ultimately you have a much higher success rate in terms of less atrophy, better range of motion, etc. And quite frankly, hopefully you're getting back to the activities that you love. We're now at, as I said, 6 weeks. This past week, he gave me the green light to start taking the wedges out from my boot one at a time. Typically, orthopedists will ask you to do that, a week at each level. He's basically said that I can do it as I'm comfortable. So if right now I'm down to 2 wedges, I feel very comfortable with that, actually, to the point where I was able to take a few steps without this boot, with cowboy boots, yesterday. So I'll probably be going down over the course of the next week or so to nothing within the boot, after which the goal is to get into this Bauerfeind a kilo train over the course of the next week or so. So let's call it 5.5, 6.5 weeks in the boot, Hopefully we'll be getting into this and being able to start to walk. This is a little brace. Obviously this will be a huge upgrade in terms of quality of life, and again, just getting into strengthening it. Nice little compressor brace made by Bauerfeind, again called the Achilles Train. It's got 2 inserts here that massage your Achilles and supposedly help promote blood flow and increase healing, and then also a pad on the bottom. The other thing that I'm going to be doing with hopes of further accelerating the healing is getting a device by the name of ARPWave, which is not totally dissimilar from a stim device in the fact that you are putting electric current through you, but it's a DC current, and the frequency at which they do it, rather than contracting the muscles like most stim devices, actually enables you to expand the muscles. So it's allowing you to relax the muscles, take tension off of the tendon and the like, and ideally enable that to promote healing. That's certainly my hope, and something that I'm going to give a shot. As of yesterday, I actually did a first session of that, and I was definitely very pleased with the way I felt. I would say for the first time I was actually able to stand on one foot, on the injured foot, which was certainly earlier than I might have expected. Additionally, it's real comfortable for me to get up and down at this point, and I'm looking forward to the progress of the weeks ahead. Hopefully this is helpful for you folks. If there's demand for it, I'm certainly happy to put a few more of these together. But other than that, I wish you all a very speedy recovery. And whatever path you choose, I hope it's the right one for you, and you're back out doing the activities you love in the near future. Speedy recovery. Take care. Cheers.